What's up, guys? And ladies, and everyone who identifies as not a lady or a guy, and we're all safe here. Hello. Oh, I feel so far away. That's okay. What did I even title this? Putting yourself. Oh yeah. What does putting yourself mean to you? I asked. I asked somebody this. She happened to be kind of like a higher up executive out of a very fast moving company with a lot of stress. And I think I said something like, "Hey, are you putting yourself first?" And it seemed like she had a young family, and it really seemed like she was putting the needs of the company, the perceived needs of the company, ahead of her own needs. Now, she responded and she said, "Well, yeah, I'm putting myself first. Like I have, like I do yoga a few times a week." And I thought that it was really, really representative and honest of how most people think of the idea of putting themselves first. What does that mean to you? Take a moment and consider it now. What does it mean to put yourself first? And it probably means like these auxiliary things, kind of like these add-ons, these, not like the Christmas tree itself, but the ornaments, these moments in life that you tack on, that you fit in, that represent, you doing things for you. And so I think that's one level that we can kind of represent that question to ourselves. How are you putting yourself first? Well, I have bubble baths. I go for walks. And that's fine and that's good, but it's not what I meant. And so other people might think, well, it's doing certain things for myself. And it is. Don't get me wrong. I went for a walk yesterday. I went for a drive yesterday. Those were for me. Sometimes it means buying things for ourselves. So we were in Italy. We were in Positano, and there's these beautiful pair of shoes, and I bought them for myself. This is kind of like it felt right. It was foreign to me because it felt like a thing that I wouldn't have done in the past. So it was really cool. But that's still not quite what I mean. So what do I mean? Well, are you putting yourself first? I think the ultimate expression of putting ourselves first is simply being who we are. And I mean like who we really fucking are. Not the fear. That we're not being our fear. Okay, so we have all these patterns in our head, typically right up here. And they limit us in some way. Okay? So let's talk about some. It could be like being a victim or blame, that kind of narrative, that kind of pattern. It could be, what about like trouble with food? I used to binge on ice cream all the time. Masturbation and porn, another personal one. There are these patterns that we have in our lives, and they're patterns of behavior. And then underneath that layer, there's patterns of thought, patterns of belief. And those are things that, we do over and over again, that we repeat. Patterns of fear, patterns of control. Man, control is such a big one in my life. Like there's this tendency to need to control everything in the world because I feel like I need to control everything in the world. Well, that's an old pattern. That's a pattern. It's not really me. Okay, so as we start to see these patterns in our lives, again, patterns of behavior, patterns of belief, patterns of thought, and those often resolve into like this core concept of who we think that we are. Okay, well, they're patterns, and if it's a pattern, then it's not us. And most of us are bound in some way from those patterns. And so we're not living really who we are without those patterns. We're living as the pattern. And usually these patterns don't serve us. Like usually they limit us in some way. And so it can be very, very frustrating. It can be, well, it's certainly minimizing. But when I say, God, what was the title of this again? like, do like, what does putting yourself first mean to you? That's the title. It came to me. Just a little slow sometimes. The ultimate expression of that is to be you. It's just to be you. It's not something you squeeze in. It's not the moment of yoga. It's a way of being. And when you are who you are without the patterns, you show up and you feel good. And it's good for you because life unfolds beautifully and spontaneously, and there's a lot of there's life in that. It's life affirming. It's fun even. But living from those old patterns, that's where that feeling of stuck comes from. And you can't put yourself first when you're living from those patterns. Our ideas of putting ourselves first in those patterns are like sneaking in ways to put ourselves first. Is this making any sense? Oh gosh, I hope so. But if it's not like that, it's actually okay too. I'm okay with that. But the idea is, what are these patterns that we feel bound in and stuck in? We got to get to know. We got to get to see them. We need to begin to learn to see them. And when we do, then we can start letting them go. And when we start letting them go, we just become more and more ourselves without those patterns. And everything gets a whole lot easier and more beautiful. And that's at its core what I mean by, look, are you putting yourself first? Another way to interpret that, given what we chat about so far, is, look, are you putting you first? Or are you putting your patterns first? Your patterns of survival, your patterns of fear, your patterns of I'm not okay, I'm not safe, and I'm not enough. Are you putting those first? Because most of us are, most of us don't even recognize it. So these can show up in a myriad of ways, but I think they all so they can show up in a million ways in the world. Any pattern that feels like it's become mundane. There's the absence of just sort of this organic flow that occurs when we are being ourselves. We have to get to know the difference. And there's a feeling of being stuck in the pattern, and it's the feeling of stuckness. And the feeling of stuckness comes from a narrative up here, a story that we're telling ourselves about the world or ourselves. And it always feels some form of constriction because we can't expand or contract at the same time. And we're here to expand and we're here to grow the same way as this plant. You maybe see me do this before. The way that this plant's here just to simply self-express. Its self-expression is growth, they're one and the same. Well, we're not so special, we're not apart from nature in that way. But the difference between us and nature is that we have this amazing brain and this amazing mind that, can cast these spells of limitation, these spells of fear, these spells of worry. And it always reconciles, or it always breaks down to a feeling of contraction. And often that can be like a tension in the throat, the chest, or the stomach. I know I spent most of my life with feeling like there's a hand around my throat. Fear is there to keep us safe. All of these patterns are there to keep us safe. And it's more accurate to say that these patterns are here to keep the pattern in and of themselves safe. Because if we don't need them anymore, they just fall away. And in a way, it's a death. And the brain is here to keep us alive. So it goes against everything that the brain is designed to do. I'm just thinking it might be fun to play a little song talk about fear, talk about the way through it. I actually just recorded the song. We recorded in January. I got the master back yesterday. This song's called Little Bird, and it's about it's about me. It's about me. little bird, this limbs be your home. Since you crack your egg, looking out from this little limb, my thing's gonna go off. The world looks so big. Fear hangs like a ball and a chain bound around your heart and your wing. They restrain you even more than the howling wind through the trees. Oh, little bird, won't you spread your wings and fly? If you don't, little bird, then it won't be long till you die. So little bird, won't you spread your wings and jump? Won't you fly away? Oh, little bird, if you only knew, if you spread your wings and leave, fear will disappear, and you'll glide on the breeze. You see the future is not in your past. Fly through the air, oh, you won't look back. Little bird, won't you spread your wings and fly? If you don't, little bird, then it won't be long till you die. So little bird, won't you spread your wings and jump? Won't you fly away? No, don't you dare spread your wings or set fear. You are safe, and if you jump, you might die. Yeah. Little bird, won't you spread your wings and fly? If you don't, little bird, then it won't be long till you die. So little bird, won't you spread your wings and jump? Oh, little bird, won't you spread your wings and fly? If you don't, little bird, then it won't be long till you die. So little bird, won't you spread your wings and jump? Won't you fly away? The fear's there to keep itself there, and so when you move through it, you give it a chance to fall away, and you come to find that on the other side of that is life. It's the expression of life. It's fun and it's full, and it's engaged and engaging and free and expansive. And fear is just a pattern, just like all of the other patterns. So, putting yourself first is getting to know yourself without those patterns, so that you can be yourself. so you can be yourself and share that with the world. And yeah, the world will benefit, but no one will benefit more than you, because you'll feel good. And that matters more than anything. So that's it for today. Hope you have a really beautiful day. We'll chat later.